Admiral HFY War stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, watching the stars bend and twist as his fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 12 massive Valdari dreadnoughts materialized in the empty space between star systems, their dark hulls gleaming with the cold light of distant suns. Each ship stretched over 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could turn planets to glass. The Admiral's 4 eyes scanned the tactical displays with satisfaction. Another successful conquest behind them, another primitive species, brought under the Empire's protective wing. The Narration had surrendered quickly once they saw the size of his fleet. Smart creatures, those blue-skinned farmers. They understood that resistance meant death, while submission meant merely slavery. "Status report," HFY War commanded, his voice carrying the authority of 3,000 years of galactic dominance. Captain Yulden Cross stepped forward, his scaled hide marking him as one of the Empire's warrior caste. "The Narration colonies have been secured, Admiral. Their tribute ships are already loading agricultural products and rare minerals. The subjugation process was completed ahead of schedule." The Admiral nodded approvingly. The Valdari Empire had perfected the art of conquest long ago. Overwhelming force, swift victory, then generous terms for those who accepted their place in the galactic order. It was efficient, profitable, and had worked for millennia across thousands of star systems. "Excellent. And our next target?" Cross activated a holographic star map that filled the center of the bridge. A small yellow star pulsed at the edge of explored space, its planetary system highlighted in red. The Science Division has identified this system as potentially valuable. Long-range sensors detect industrial activity on the 3rd planet. The inhabitants appear to have achieved basic spaceflight and nuclear technology. How primitive, HFY War mused, studying the tactical data. Population? Approximately 8 billion beings. They call their world Terra, or Earth, in their dominant languages. The species appears to be bipedal, carbon-based, and surprisingly uniform for a planetary civilization. The Admiral's mandibles clicked with amusement. 8 billion? They breed like insects. No wonder they've achieved industrial capacity so quickly. Very well, set course for this Earth system. We'll offer them the standard terms. As the fleet prepared to jump, HFY War reflected on the beauty of the Empire's system. The Valdari had learned long ago that total annihilation was wasteful. Better to allow conquered species to continue their existence under Imperial guidance. They provided resources, labor, and occasionally useful technological innovations. In return, the Empire protected them from the chaos of independent existence. The humans would learn, as all species eventually did, that resistance was futile and submission was survival. The jump to faster-than-light speed always thrilled HFY War. Reality twisted around the massive ships as they slipped between dimensions, covering distances that would take light years in mere hours. The Empire's FTL technology was perhaps their greatest achievement, allowing them to project power across the entire galaxy. When they emerged in the Terra system, tactical officers immediately began scanning for threats. Standard procedure demanded caution, though no primitive species had ever posed a meaningful challenge to Valdari military might. "Sensor report," the Admiral commanded. Lieutenant Vexara, the youngest officer on the bridge, studied her instruments with growing confusion. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the system. The planet's electromagnetic output is much higher than expected for their technological level." "Elaborate. The radio traffic is extensive, Admiral. Thousands of artificial satellites orbit their world, and there are structures on their moon that appear to be industrial facilities." Captain Cross frowned, his warrior instincts alert. Could they be more advanced than our initial assessment suggested? Impossible. HFY War dismissed the concern. No species achieves interstellar capability without the Empire's knowledge. Our deep space monitoring networks would have detected any FTL experiments. What you're seeing is simply an industrial civilization that has learned to exploit their local resources efficiently. The fleet moved deeper into the system, their massive ships dwarfing the small rocky planets that orbited the yellow star. Earth grew larger on their screens. A blue and green marble swirled with white clouds. It was actually quite beautiful, HFY War admitted to himself. The humans had been fortunate in their world. Admiral, Lieutenant Vexara called out, her voice tight with uncertainty. We're receiving multiple transmission attempts from the planet. They appear to be greeting us. Put it through the translation matrix. The bridge speakers crackled to life with alien voices speaking in rapid, excited tones. The universal translator worked quickly, converting the strange human languages into Imperial Standard. Unknown vessels, this is Earth Traffic Control. Please, identify yourselves and state your intentions in our system. We welcome peaceful contact and request that you acknowledge our communications. Silence filled the bridge. Captain Cross was the first to speak. They're talking to us. As equals. HFY War's mandibles clicked with dark amusement. How refreshingly naive. They think this is a diplomatic encounter. He gestured to the communications officer. Open a channel, standard intimidation protocol. The Admiral's image would now be broadcasting to every receiver on the planet below. His reptilian features and predatory eyes had struck fear into countless species over the centuries. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Primitive inhabitants of Terra, you are now under the protection of the Valdari Empire. By imperial decree, your world and all its resources are hereby claimed in the name of Emperor Zalthus. May his reign be eternal. You will prepare tribute consisting of 10% of your annual industrial output and surrender all military assets to imperial forces. Compliance will be rewarded with continued existence. Resistance will be met with complete annihilation. The Admiral cut the transmission and settled back to wait for the inevitable response. Usually there was panic, desperate attempts at negotiation, or occasionally foolish defiance that had to be crushed quickly. The humans would follow the same pattern as every other species. Minutes passed. Then an hour. The tactical display showed increased activity around Earth, but no surrender broadcasts. Sir, Lieutenant Vexara reported, we're detecting massive electromagnetic spikes across their planet. It appears they're mobilizing something. Captain Cross studied his own displays with growing unease. Admiral, their energy output has increased by 300% in the last hour. Whatever they're powering up, it's drawing enormous amounts of power. Irrelevant, HFY War stated firmly. No planetary defense system can threaten Imperial dreadnoughts. Maintain position and prepare for the standard demonstration. But Lieutenant Vexara's instruments were telling a different story. Deep space sensors, designed to detect the approach of hostile fleets, were registering something impossible. Admiral, I'm reading a massive energy signature moving in our direction. It's coming from behind their moon. All eyes turned to the main display screen. At first, there was nothing visible except the gray surface of Earth's natural satellite. Then, like a ghost materializing from the void, a ship appeared. It was unlike anything in Imperial records. Where Valdari vessels were brutal and angular, this craft was sleek and graceful. It measured perhaps 800 meters long, tiny compared to the massive dreadnoughts. But there was something about its design that spoke of advanced engineering. The hull seemed to shimmer with barely contained energy, and weapon ports were visible along its sides. Impossible, Captain Cross whispered. Where did it come from? Our sensors should have detected any vessel of that size. HFY War stared at the alien ship with a mixture of surprise and anger. No primitive species was supposed to possess stealth technology. No conquered world had ever hidden military assets from Imperial sensors. Yet here was proof that the humans had capabilities beyond their apparent technological level. Open communications, he commanded. Let's see what these insects have to say for themselves. The response came immediately, and the voice that spoke was calm, professional, and completely unintimidated. Valdari vessels, this is Captain Do-hyun Kim of the United Earthship Indomitable. You have entered sovereign human space and made hostile declarations against the people of Earth. I am authorized to inform you that your demands are rejected. You will withdraw from this system immediately or face the consequences. The bridge of the eternal glory fell silent. In 3,000 years of conquest, No species had ever spoken to the Valdari Empire with such casual confidence. Captain Cross looked as if someone had struck him across the face. Admiral HFY War's 4 eyes blazed with fury. Did that primitive just threaten us? Lieutenant Vexara checked her instruments again, hardly believing what she was seeing. Sir, that single ship is maintaining position directly in our path. They're not retreating. Scan their vessel, the Admiral commanded. I want to know exactly what kind of toys these humans think can challenge Imperial might. The results were puzzling. The human ship's hull composition was unknown, its energy signature was unlike anything in Imperial databases, and its weapons psi. Captain Do-hyun Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching 11 Valdari dreadnoughts move into attack formation. Each enemy ship was nearly 4 times the size of his vessel, bristling with weapons that could reduce cities to ash. By every logical measure, his ship should already be dead, but logic had never been humanity's strongest suit. All stations report ready, Captain, Commander Sujin Park announced from the weapons console. Her fingers danced across controls that would have been incomprehensible to any alien observer. Plasma cannon systems at full charge, missile tubes loaded, and defensive screens active. Dr. Woo Sung Lee's voice crackled over the intercom from the engine room. Reactor output holding steady at 112% of rated capacity. I can give you more power if needed, but we'll be pushing into experimental territory. Kim nodded, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment. 3 years since humanity's deep space telescopes had detected the first signs of the Valdari Empire. 3 years of desperate research, engineering breakthroughs, and military buildup that the galaxy had never suspected. Range to lead enemy vessel? He asked. 50,000 kilometers in closing, reported Lieutenant Hyunwoo Nam from the tactical station. The young officer's voice was steady despite the impossible odds they faced. Enemy formation suggests they plan to surround us and concentrate fire. Commander Park studied her targeting solutions with the cold precision that had made her Earth's finest weapons officer. Captain, their ship designs are exactly as the intelligence reports predicted. Heavy armor, powerful shields, but sluggish, maneuvering. They're built for overwhelming firepower against stationary targets. Then we don't stay stationary, Kim replied. Nam, plot an evasive course through the asteroid belt. Park, I want targeting solutions on their lead ships. Lee, give me everything the reactor can handle. The Indomitable suddenly accelerated with a force that would have crushed any alien crew. Human engineering had solved the inertia problem with gravity manipulation technology that the Empire's scientists had never even theorized. While the massive Valdari ships lumbered through space like ancient battleships, the human vessel moved like a fighter craft. Admiral HFY War watched in growing disbelief as the tiny human ship shot past his formation, weaving between plasma bolts that should have vaporized it instantly. How are they moving like that? No ship that size should be capable of such acceleration. Captain Cross was studying his tactical screens with the growing realization that they faced something completely outside Imperial experience. Sir, their maneuverability is beyond our projection models. They're pulling G-forces that should liquefy any organic crew. Impossible. They're using some kind of illusion technology. All ships concentrate fire on their projected position. Space lit up with energy weapons as 11 dreadnoughts poured devastating firepower into the area around the human ship. Plasma, beams capable of melting asteroids, converged on the Indomitable's position, only to find empty space as the vessel danced away from danger with impossible grace. On the human ship's bridge, Kim felt the familiar calm that came with combat. This was what humans excelled at: adapting, improvising, and turning disadvantages into weapons. Park, return fire. Show them what concentrated force can accomplish. The Indomitable's main plasma cannon had been designed using principles that humanity had discovered by studying captured alien technology and pushing it far beyond its original limitations. Instead of the broad, unfocused beams favored by the Empire, human weapons created tight, coherent streams of energy that could punch through any known defense. The first shot struck the Valdari ship, crushing Victory directly amidships. The beam penetrated the vessel's shields as if they didn't exist, punched through armor that had withstood the fire of entire rebel fleets, and detonated the ship's primary ammunition storage. The explosion lit up space like a new star, and when the glare faded, nothing remained but expanding debris. Silence filled the communication channels as both fleets tried to process what they had just witnessed. A single shot from a primitive human vessel had completely destroyed an Imperial dreadnought. Lieutenant Nam's voice broke the quiet. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy spikes from the enemy formation. They appear to be panicking." Indeed, the remaining Valdari ships were breaking formation, their commanders suddenly realizing that they faced an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. Admiral Thex Vamor's voice could be heard screaming orders across their communication channels, demanding explanations for how a primitive species could possess such devastating weapons. Dr. Lee's voice came from the engine room, tinged with excitement. "Captain, the reactor's performing beautifully. I'm reading power levels we only dreamed about in the lab. We can maintain this level of output for hours if necessary." Kim smiled grimly. The Empire had made two critical mistakes. First, they had assumed that technological advancement followed a linear path, never imagining that humanity might achieve breakthroughs in unexpected areas. Second, they had underestimated the human capacity for innovation under pressure. "All ships, this is Admiral Thex Vamor," the alien commander's voice crackled across open channels. "The humans possess weapons beyond our initial assessment. Implement siege protocol. Surround them and wear down their defenses with sustained bombardment." Commander Park looked up from her weapons console. "Captain, they're trying to use their numbers advantage. Standard Imperial doctrine when facing an unexpectedly capable opponent." "Then we don't let them implement standard doctrine," Kim replied. "Nam, take us into the asteroid field. Park, prepare proximity charges and hunter-killer missiles. Lee, I need maximum maneuverability power." The Indomitable dove into the dense asteroid belt that surrounded the system's inner planets, using the rocky debris as cover while the massive Valdari ship struggled to follow. The dreadnoughts were designed for open space combat, not for navigating through fields of spinning rock. What followed was a deadly game of hide-and-seek among asteroids the size of mountains. The human ship would emerge from behind cover, strike, with devastating precision, then vanish again before return fire could reach them. Each attack claimed another Imperial vessel, and with each loss, the Valdari formation grew more desperate. The relentless hammer died when Commander Park's targeting system identified a weakness in the ship's reactor shielding. A single, precisely placed shot caused a cascade failure that tore the vessel apart from within. The Iron Dominion met its end when the Indomitable emerged from an asteroid's shadow and launched a spread of hunter-killer missiles. The small intelligent weapons overwhelmed the dreadnought's point defenses and struck critical systems with surgical accuracy. Chief Petty Officer Mi-Young Choi coordinated damage control from her station, but the Valdari return fire was becoming increasingly desperate and inaccurate. "Minor hull breach on Deck 3, Captain. Repair teams have it sealed. Enemy fire is scattered. They're shooting at shadows half the time." Lieutenant Nam studied the tactical display with growing confidence. "Sir, their formation is completely broken. They're fighting as individuals now, not as a coordinated fleet. Several ships are actually interfering with each other's firing solutions." The battle raged for 2 hours among the asteroids. By the end, 9 Imperial dreadnoughts had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris, and the remaining 3 were damaged and demoralized. The Indomitable had taken only minor damage, its advanced defensive systems proving more than adequate against the Empire's weapons. Admiral Thex Vamor found himself commanding a single functional dreadnought, the Eternal Glory, while 2 other, heavily damaged ships limped nearby. His proud Third Fleet, which had conquered dozens of star systems, had been reduced to scrap by a single human vessel. "This is impossible," he muttered, staring at the tactical display that showed the human ship emerging from the asteroid field like an avenging spirit. "No species achieves this level of technological superiority without our knowledge. How did they hide their true capabilities?" Captain Cross, his face pale with shock, studied the sensor readings from the battle. "Admiral, Their weapons technology appears to be completely unknown. Our databases contain no reference to anything similar, and their defensive capabilities, they've taken direct hits from plasma cannons that should have vaporized their entire ship. The human vessel moved to a position where it could engage all three remaining Valdari ships simultaneously. It hung in space like a predator preparing to strike, its weapons powered and ready. Captain Kim's voice came across the communication channels, no longer diplomatic but carrying the cold certainty of a species that had just proven its superiority in combat. Admiral HFY War, you now have 3 ships remaining from a fleet of 12. Your invasion of human space has failed. You have one opportunity to withdraw with your remaining vessels and carry a message back to your empire. HFY War's mandibles clicked with rage and humiliation. You think this single victory means anything? The Empire commands thousands of ships across hundreds of star systems. We will return with such force that your entire species will be reduced to atomic dust. Perhaps, Kim replied calmly. But you won't be leading that force. Your ships are damaged, your crews are demoral. Emperor Zalthus sat upon his crystal throne in the heart of the imperial capital, his 4 arms gesturing with barely controlled rage as he read the report from Admiral HFY War. The massive chamber, carved from a single asteroid and decorated with trophies from 1,000 conquered worlds, had never witnessed such fury from its ruler. Impossible, the Emperor hissed, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling. The Third Fleet was annihilated by a single primitive vessel? This cannot be accurate. Admiral Kexnaran, commander of the Imperial Navy, stood before the throne with the uncomfortable duty of confirming the impossible. The surviving ships have been examined by our best engineers, Your Majesty. The damage patterns are consistent with unknown energy weapons of extraordinary power. Furthermore, the tactical recordings show maneuvering capabilities that exceed our theoretical maximums. The Emperor's primary eyes blazed, while his secondary eyes studied holographic displays showing the wreckage of 9 dreadnoughts. Each ship had represented decades of construction and the resources of entire star systems. Their loss was more than a military defeat. It was a crack in the foundation of imperial power. How many species across the galaxy will hear of this? Zalthus demanded. The report has already spread through official channels, Majesty. We estimate that within days, every major system will know that the Third Fleet was destroyed by an unknown human force. The implications were staggering. For 3,000 years, the Valdari Empire had maintained control through overwhelming force, and the belief that resistance was futile. If word spread that a single human ship could destroy imperial dreadnoughts, rebellions would erupt across the galaxy. Mobilize the Grand Armada, the Emperor commanded. Every available ship. This human threat must be eliminated before it inspires others to challenge imperial authority. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, Captain Do-hyun Kim stood in the command center buried deep beneath the Korean peninsula. Around him, dozens of officers coordinated humanity's response to what they all knew was coming. The Empire's retaliation would be swift and overwhelming. Status report on the fleet dispersal, Kim requested. Admiral Jae-won Kwon, the gray-haired commander of Earth's secret deep space forces, gestured to a holographic display showing the inner solar system. All ships have reached their assigned positions. The Defiant and Retribution are holding station behind Jupiter's moons. The stealth squadrons are deployed throughout the asteroid belt. Total force strength is 47 combat vessels. Captain Yejin Seo, commander of the stealth ship UES Shadow, materialized on the communication screen from her position near the edge of the system. Long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements in Imperial space. They're pulling ships from occupation duties across multiple sectors. This response is larger than anything in our projections. Dr. Woo-Sung Lee looked up from his engineering console, where streams of data showed the status of humanity's secret weapons project. The reactor modifications are complete on all ships. We can maintain peak power output for extended periods, and the new weapon systems are performing within acceptable parameters. Kim nodded, studying the tactical situation with the calm that had made him Earth's most trusted military commander. 3 years ago, when humanity first detected the Valdari Empire's expansion toward their sector, the decision had been made to prepare for this moment. While the Empire believed Earth to be a primitive world just achieving spaceflight, humanity had been building a military force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "What's the status on Operation Prometheus?" Kim asked. Dr. Lee's expression grew excited. "All colonial installations are operational and hidden. The Empire still believes we're confined to a single star system. They have no idea that we've established military bases on 17 worlds across this sector. The secret of humanity's rapid expansion lay in their approach to faster-than-light travel. While the Empire used massive ships that tore holes in space-time, human engineers had developed a quantum tunneling system that allowed smaller vessels to slip between dimensions without creating the energy signatures that Imperial sensors could detect." Admiral Kwan called up a star chart showing the local galactic region. "Our scout ships report that Imperial subject species are already showing signs of unrest. The news of our victory has spread faster than the Empire can contain it. Several systems have suspended tribute shipments pending clarification of the political situation." Captain Seo's intelligence network had been monitoring communications across dozens of star systems. "The Naren colonies are in open revolt. They've declared independence and are requesting human military assistance. The Cathara system has expelled Imperial administrators, and the Solani are refusing to provide their monthly shipments of rare metals." This was exactly what humanity had hoped for. The Empire's control relied on the belief that resistance was impossible. Once that belief cracked, the entire system would begin to collapse. Dr. Lee received an urgent communication from his research team. "Captain, we're receiving FTL transmissions from our deep space monitoring stations. The Imperial response force is larger than our worst-case projections. Over 200 vessels, including the Emperor's personal flagship." The command center fell silent as everyone processed the magnitude of the threat approaching Earth. 200 Imperial ships against fewer than 50 human vessels. The odds were worse than anyone had anticipated. Lieutenant Hyun-woo Nam, who had been transferred to the Strategic Planning Division after his service aboard the Indomitable, looked up from his analysis of Imperial fleet movements. "Sir, based on their approach vector and formation, they're planning a direct assault on Earth. No subtlety, no negotiation. They intend to make an example of us." Kim felt the familiar calm that came with facing impossible odds. This was what humans did best, finding victory where logic said only defeat waited. Then we give them exactly what they're expecting to find: a primitive world defended by technology they can't understand. The next few days saw frantic preparation across the Sol system. Orbital defense platforms disguised as communication satellites, powered-up weapon systems that drew energy directly from the sun itself, fighter squadrons, each craft no larger than an Imperial shuttle but armed with weaponry that could threaten capital ships, took position throughout the system. Most importantly, the quantum communication network that connected Earth to its hidden colonies across 17 star systems carried orders for the largest coordinated military operation in human history. The Empire was about to learn that their primitive enemy had capabilities that extended far beyond a single star system. Captain Yejin Seo's stealth ship monitored the Imperial fleet's approach from the edge of the system. Her reports painted a picture of overwhelming force: massive dreadnoughts, fast attack cruisers, and support vessels that carried enough firepower to reduce planets to molten slag. 212 ships confirmed, CO reported. "The flagship Divine Wrath is larger than anything in our databases. Energy readings suggest it could destroy our entire fleet with sustained bombardment." Dr. Lee had been analyzing the EO sensor data from SEO's reconnaissance. "Captain, their fleet composition tells us something important. They're not planning a siege or occupation. This is an extermination force. They intend to destroy Earth as a warning to other potential rebels." Admiral Kwan studied the approaching fleet with professional interest. "Their formation is designed for maximum intimidation. They want any defenders to see the size of the force arrayed against them and surrender without a fight." Kim smiled grimly. "Then we let them maintain that illusion right up until the moment we show them what human ingenuity can accomplish." The Imperial fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system in a formation designed to inspire terror. 200 ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns, their hulls gleaming with the technology of a civilization that had conquered the galaxy. At their center, the Divine Wrath stretched over 5 kilometers long, a mobile fortress that served as both flagship and symbol of imperial might. Emperor Zalthus himself commanded from the flagship's bridge, determined to personally oversee the destruction of the species that had dared to challenge his authority. Around him, his most trusted admirals coordinated the attack that would serve as a lesson to every world in the Empire. Long-range sensors detect minimal defensive activity, reported Admiral Kexneran. A few orbital installations and perhaps 20 small vessels. Exactly what we would expect from a primitive civilization. The Emperor's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. Begin the attack. I want this world reduced to ash within the hour. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who defy the Empire. But as the Imperial fleet moved deeper into the system, their sensors began detecting energy signatures that didn't match their projections. Hidden defense platforms came online throughout the asteroid belt. Ships that had been invisible to Imperial scanners suddenly appeared on their tactical displays. And from the direction of Jupiter, 3 massive human vessels emerged from behind the gas giant's moons. Captain Jin Ho Song commanded the UES Defiant, while Captain Yoon Ji-han led the Retribution. Together with Kim's Indomitable, they formed the core of humanity's defense, but they were no longer alone across. The Battle of Earth began with the Empire's traditional show of overwhelming force. 212 Valkyrie warships opened fire simultaneously, their combined weapons turning space into a web of deadly energy. Plasma beams capable of boiling oceans streaked toward the human defensive positions, while missile salvos large enough to shatter moons raced through the void. Emperor Zalthus watched from his flagship's bridge, expecting to see the primitive, human ships vaporized by the first volley. Instead, he witnessed something that violated every principle of imperial military doctrine. The human fleet scattered like leaves in a wind, each ship moving with impossible agility to avoid the concentrated fire. "How are they moving like that?" Admiral Kexenaran demanded, staring at tactical displays that showed human vessels pulling maneuvers that should have crushed their crews. "No organic beings can survive those acceleration forces." Dr. Wu Sung. Li's revolutionary inertial dampening technology was performing exactly as designed. While Imperial ships were limited by the physical tolerances of their crews, human vessels could execute turns and accelerations that treated the laws of physics as mere suggestions. The Indomitable, Defiant, and Retribution led their smaller companions in a deadly dance through space, avoiding destruction by margins measured in meters. Captain Do-hyun Kim coordinated the defense from his command center, watching as his carefully planned strategy unfolded. All units implement Pattern 7. Focus fire on their command ships first. Across the human fleet, 47 vessels responded with precision that spoke of years of joint training. Each ship had been designed for a specific role in this moment, and their crews had drilled endlessly for the day when Earth's survival would depend on their skill. The first human counterattack came from Captain Yejin Seo's stealth squadrons. 12 small vessels, invisible to Imperial sensors until, the moment they fired, emerged from hiding spots throughout the asteroid belt. Their weapons were different from the main fleet's plasma cannons, focused particle beams that could slice through armor like a knife through paper. The Imperial cruiser, Systematic Conquest, died without warning as Seo's fighters struck its reactor core with surgical precision. The explosion sent debris spinning through the Imperial formation, forcing nearby ships to maneuver to avoid collision. "Stealth attacks confirmed," reported Admiral Kexneran. "We're facing coordinated assault from multiple directions. How did they achieve such tactical coordination?" The answer lay in humanity's quantum communication network, which allowed instantaneous coordination across vast distances. While Imperial fleets relied on light-speed transmissions that created delays in large formations, human ships could respond to changing tactical situations faster than their enemies could adapt. Captain Jin Ho Song's Defiant led the main assault, its experimental weapon systems targeting the Imperial formation's heavy cruisers. Each shot was precisely calculated to maximize damage while minimizing exposure to return fire. The systematic oppression lost its main engines to a direct hit, while the merciless judgment found its weapon systems disabled by a spread of hunter-killer missiles. Emperor Xalthus felt something he had never experienced before: genuine concern about the outcome of a battle. His Grand Armada was taking casualties at a rate that defied all projections, while the human ships seemed to anticipate every Imperial tactic. Their coordination is perfect, he observed, watching human vessels weave through his formation like predators hunting a herd. They're fighting as a single organism rather than individual ships. General Taemin Yoon's orbital defense grid chose that moment to reveal itself. What the Empire had dismissed as primitive communication satellites suddenly opened fire with beams that drew power directly from the sun. The concentrated solar energy, focused through crystalline lenses that humanity had grown in zero gravity, created weapons of devastating power. The Imperial dreadnought, endless domination, found itself the target of 3 orbital platforms simultaneously. The focused solar beams punched through its shields and armor, as if they were made of paper, causing critical system failures throughout the massive vessel. Colonel Bo-Ra Lim's elite Space Marines launched their own assault, using boarding pods that were too small and fast for Imperial point defenses to intercept. Her teams had studied captured Valdari technology for months, learning the layout and vulnerabilities of Imperial ships. The crushing authority suffered the indignity of being captured from within as Lim's Marines stormed its bridge and took control of its weapon systems. Within minutes, the human-controlled dreadnought was firing on its own fleet, adding to the chaos in the Imperial formation. Dr. Lee monitored the battle from his engineering command center, watching as his revolutionary reactor designs proved themselves in combat. All ships reporting stable power output at 115% of rated capacity. We can maintain this level indefinitely. The tide of battle was turning as human tactics proved superior to Imperial brute force. But Emperor Xalthus had not conquered the galaxy by accepting defeat easily. He activated his personal communication system, broadcasting to every ship in his fleet. All vessels implement siege protocol. Surround the human fleet and concentrate all fire on their largest ships. Accept casualties if necessary. These primitives must be crushed before word of our struggle spreads further. The Imperial fleet began to close ranks, their commanders abandoning tactical finesse in favor of overwhelming firepower. If they could destroy the human capital ships, the smaller vessels would be forced to retreat or face annihilation. Admiral Jae-won Kwon watched the Imperial movement from his command ship and smiled. The Empire was playing directly into humanity's hands. All units prepare for Phase 2 operations. Activate the Colonial Reinforcement Network. Across 17 hidden human colonies, warships that had been constructed in secret began their journey toward Earth. The Empire believed they were fighting the entire human military force, but they had only engaged the system defense fleet. The real surprise was still to come. Lieutenant Hyunwoo Nam coordinated the tactical analysis from his position aboard the Indomitable. Captain, Imperial formation is predictable now. They're prioritizing firepower concentration over maneuverability. Pattern 12 should be highly effective. Pattern 12 was humanity's response to siege tactics, a coordinated strike that would hit the Imperial fleet at its most vulnerable moment. As the Valdari ships closed to optimal firing range, they unknowingly positioned themselves exactly where human planners wanted them. Captain Yoonji Han's Retribution led the counterattack, her ship diving directly into the heart of the Imperial formation with weapons blazing. The massive human vessel, protected by shields that incorporated principles unknown to Imperial science, weathered the concentrated fire while striking back with devastating accuracy. The divine supremacy exploded in a ball of fire as Han's plasma cannons found its ammunition storage. The relentless victory died when boarding pods delivered Marines who seized control of its reactor core. One by one, the Empire's most powerful warships were falling to human tactics and technology. But the real shock came when the quantum tunneling gates opened throughout the Sol system. Ships began emerging from impossible directions, above, below, and from angles that defied three-dimensional thinking. The human colonial fleet had arrived, bringing their total force to over 100 vessels. Emperor Xalthus stared in absolute horror as his tactical displays suddenly showed Imperial ships outnumbered for the first time in 3 millennia. The primitive species he had come to exterminate had somehow hidden a military force that rivaled the Empire's own Grand Armada. "This is impossible," he whispered, watching human reinforcements continue to arrive through what appeared to be holes in space itself. "Where did they get so many ships? How did they hide an entire fleet from our intelligence networks?" Admiral Kexnaran was receiving damage reports from across the fleet. "Majesty, we've lost 37 ships with critical damage to 48 others. The humans have taken minimal casualties. Their technology is beyond our ability to counter effectively." The Emperor's rage reached new heights as he realized that his empire, the supreme power in the galaxy for 3,000 years, was losing a battle against a species that had only recently achieved spaceflight. The implications were staggering. If the Valdari could be defeated, every subject species would rise in rebellion. "All ships retreat to maximum range and implement orbital bombardment protocol," Zalthus commanded. "If we cannot defeat their fleet, we'll destroy their world, directly. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who challenge Imperial authority." The remaining Imperial ships began to withdraw, preparing to reduce Earth to a lifeless rock rather than accept military defeat. Their massive weapons prepared to fire on the planet itself, threatening to commit genocide on a scale that would horrify even their own subject species. Captain Kim had anticipated this possibility as the Imperial fleet moved into bombardment position. He activated humanity's final surprise, the planetary defense grid that had been hidden beneath Earth's oceans for 3 years. Massive installation rose from the ocean floors, their crystal weapon arrays focusing energy drawn from the planet's core itself. The combined power of Earth's geological. Captain Do-hyun Kim stood in the command center beneath Earth's surface, looking at the tactical display that showed the broken remains of the Valdari Grand Armada. 73 Imperial ships had been destroyed, another 48 were crippled, beyond repair, and the survivors hung in space like wounded animals waiting for the final blow. Emperor Zalthus's question echoed across the communication channels. "What do you want?" Kim had prepared for this moment for 3 years, but the weight of speaking for all humanity to a galactic emperor still pressed heavily on his shoulders. His response would shape the future of every species in the galaxy. "I want you to listen very carefully, Emperor," Kim began, his voice carrying the authority of a species that had just proven its power. "Your empire has ruled through fear and overwhelming force for 3,000 years. Today that age ends." On the bridge of the divine wrath, Zalthus felt the foundations of his world crumbling. Around him, his officers monitored damage reports from across the fleet while human ships moved through the wreckage with casual confidence. The primitives had not only defeated the Empire's finest, they had done it while barely taking casualties themselves. Admiral Kexnaran looked up from his tactical console with news that made the Emperor's defeat complete. "Majesty, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy. The Narration system has declared independence. The Cathera colonies have expelled Imperial administrators. 17 other systems have suspended tribute payments pending clarification of the political situation." The defeat at Earth was spreading like wildfire through the Empire's communication networks. Every subject species was hearing the same impossible news. The invincible Valdari had been crushed by a single human fleet. The psychological foundation of Imperial control was collapsing as quickly as their military supremacy. Dr. Woo-Sung Lee monitored the situation from his engineering station, watching as quantum communication networks carried humanity's message to hidden resistance cells across the galaxy. The plan they had developed went far beyond defending Earth. It was designed to trigger the complete collapse of the Imperial system. "Captain," Dr. Lee reported, "our deep space monitoring stations are detecting fleet movements throughout Imperial space. It appears that subject species are not waiting for permission to rebel." Captain Yejin Seo's intelligence network had been preparing for this moment as well. Her operatives, inserted into dozens of star systems over the past 3 years, were now activating resistance movements that had been waiting for proof that the Empire could be defeated. The Solani have seized control of their orbital shipyards, CO reported from her stealth ship. They're broadcasting our tactical recordings to every system in their sector. The psychological impact is spreading faster than the Empire can contain. Emperor Zalthus listened to the reports with growing horror. His empire was not just losing a battle, it was facing complete political collapse as every conquered species saw their chance for freedom. The humans had somehow coordinated a galaxy-wide rebellion using technology the Empire couldn't detect or counter. "You planned this," he said to Kim, the realization dawning that the battle for Earth had been part of a much larger strategy. This was never just about defending your world. Kim's response was calm and direct. "You're correct, Emperor. For 3 years, we've been preparing not just to defend ourselves, but to free the galaxy from your tyranny. Every species deserves the right to determine its own destiny." Admiral Jaewon Kwan activated displays showing the expanding rebellion across Imperial space. 23 star systems have now declared independence. 47 others have suspended Imperial cooperation. Your control is crumbling faster than your ships can travel. The scope of the human plan was staggering. While the Empire had focused on the immediate threat of Earth's defenses, humanity had been building a network of allies and resistance movements across the galaxy. The defeat of the Grand Armada was simply the signal for coordinated revolution on a scale never before attempted. Colonel Bo-Ra Lim's Marines had been busy during the battle, capturing not just enemy ships, but also their command officers. Imperial admirals who had terrorized entire sectors now found themselves prisoners aboard human vessels. Their ships turned against their own fleet by superior tactics and technology. "We have Admiral Thexva Moore in custody," Lim reported. "He's requesting to speak with human leadership about terms for Imperial surrender." The irony was not lost on anyone. The same admiral who had first encountered human forces was now begging for mercy from the species he had tried to enslave. The Empire's mythology of racial superiority had been shattered completely. General Taemin Yoon coordinated Earth's orbital defenses as they powered down from combat status. The planetary shield grid had performed flawlessly, protecting humanity's homeworld from weapons that could crack continents. All defensive installations report successful test of combat protocols. Earth's protection is absolute. But Kim was already thinking beyond the immediate battle. The defeat of the Empire was only the beginning. Someone would need to fill the power vacuum left by the collapse of Valdari control. The galaxy could not be allowed to descend into chaos and warfare between countless newly independent species. "Open. A channel to all ships and monitoring stations across the galaxy," Kim commanded. "It's time to address everyone who has been listening to this battle." The transmission that followed would be remembered as the moment the galaxy changed forever. Kim's words reached not just the surviving Imperial forces, but every species that had been following the battle through captured communication networks. "People of the galaxy," Kim began, "today has proven that no empire is too large to fall, and no species is too weak to fight for freedom. The Valdari Empire's reign of terror is over, but we cannot allow the galaxy to fall into chaos." Emperor Zalthus listened with growing understanding as Kim outlined humanity's vision for the future. This was not just about revenge or conquest. The humans genuinely intended to create a better system of galactic governance. "We propose the formation of a galactic federation," Kim continued, "where every species has an equal voice and the right to determine its own future. No more tribute, no more forced servitude, no more fear of imperial retribution." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across dozens of star systems, newly liberated species broadcast their acceptance of humanity's proposal. The Naren offered their agricultural expertise. The Cathara provided their advanced medical knowledge, and the Solani contributed their industrial capabilities. Dr. Lee received updates from monitoring stations throughout human space. "Captain, we're receiving acceptance messages from over 60 star systems. They want to join the Federation immediately. But not everyone was ready to accept the new order. Several Imperial loyalist fleets were refusing to acknowledge the Emperor's defeat, while some species saw the collapse of central authority as an opportunity for conquest rather than cooperation. Captain Jin Ho Song's task force was already moving to intercept a Valdari fleet that was attempting to suppress rebellion in the Narran colonies. The Defiant and its escorts would demonstrate that humanity's protection extended to all Federation members. Multiple Imperial task forces are attempting to maintain control through violence, Song reported, requesting permission to engage and protect Federation colonies. Kim approved the mission without hesitation. The Federation would need to prove that it could protect its members as effectively as the Empire had oppressed them. All Federation forces are authorized to engage Imperial holdouts. Show them that the age of tyranny is truly over. The next few hours saw battles across the galaxy as the Old Order fought desperately to maintain control. But the psychological impact of Earth's victory had already turned the tide. Imperial crews were surrendering rather than fighting, while subject species were rising up with courage inspired by humanity's example. Captain Yunji Han's retribution led the liberation of the Kithara homeworld. Her ship's arrival greeted by celebration rather than fear. The sight of human vessels protecting rather than conquering was a powerful symbol of the changing galaxy. Emperor Zalthus watched his empire crumble through reports from across Imperial space. Within hours of the Battle of Earth, over 100 star systems had declared independence. His fleet commanders were either switching sides or fleeing into deep space. "What will happen to me?" he asked Kim, the proud emperor reduced to pleading for his life. Kim's response reflected humanity's commitment to justice rather than revenge. "You will stand trial for your crimes against countless species. The Federation will judge you according to laws that apply equally to everyone, regardless of their species or former position." The concept of equal justice was alien to Imperial thinking, where the Emperor's word had been absolute law. But Kim's promise carried weight because it came from a species that had just proven its power and chose to use it responsibly. Dr. Lee coordinated the technological integration that would help former Imperial colonies join the Federation. Human engineering teams were already traveling to liberated worlds, sharing advanced technology and helping establish defensive capabilities. "The reactor technology transfers are proceeding smoothly," Lee reported. "Within months, every Federation world will have the capability to defend